We definitely have something different for you today, and something that I'm very excited about because I've always wanted to have one of these and never actually thought I'd have one, and that is a UTV, or an RTV in this case. This is classed as an RTV. And this here just popped up very local beside me. Now when I went to first look at it, it was quite dirty. It was covered in green algae all over the cab, the glass and everything, and it didn't look its best, but I knew once I got a proper look around it that it actually was quite solid, as long as it was mechanically good. And this is mechanically good so far. From what I'm looking at and how I've drove it, it seems to be running really, really well. So why did I go and buy something like this? I can go over to the farm in the tractor, but we've shocking bad roads. You've seen them here before, and you're rocked from side to side. It takes a long time to go back and forth. So the quad, you're literally over in a minute, and that's all it takes to get to the other farm. Something that I go over to twice a day, every single day of the year. One of the disadvantages with the quad, especially this year, last year it got me as well, was in January it gets quite cold, and it's been a very, very cold end of January. If you remember, if you're from Ireland, you probably couldn't have escaped it. I was breathing in that cold air and I got a really bad chesty cough, which stayed on. I'm only actually starting to get rid of it now, and I got that before, and that was all down to the breathing in that cold air when you're on a quad. It always got me thinking I'd love something that had a cab on it, a closed cab. It didn't have to have a heater in it, it didn't have to have any of that jazz, just a closed cab that when you go back and forth to the farm, you're not always getting hit by driving rain or the cold air. With this here, I can drive into the field. I can put all my stuff in the back of it, and that's another big plus. There's so much room in the back of it. I can go fencing, I can go over and work in the cottage, I can work anywhere. If it ever does go to rain, I can always just sit in the cab and I have shelter from it. So I looked at a couple of these, different types of ones. So the first one I had in mind was a Yamaha Rhino. It'd have a similar engine to what's in my quad. It's actually a 660 engine that would be in the Rhino. But the problem with the Rhino is the bed would be a lot smaller, and it'd also be manual, where you'd have to tip it by hand yourself. You'd have to grab it and tip it up. Also, all the ones I looked at only had a half door on them, so they weren't completely closed in. They had a windscreen and a back window, but the side door was only a small little side door. And again, you're back to that problem with the rain. So I kind of went off those after a while. Another thing as well is they were all petrol. This is diesel. I've been looking through all videos and forums on the sea. Was there anything I should watch out for? And the common things that was mentioned was that they're really easy on fuel. They're built like a real proper workhorse. Heavy frame. You can see the leaf springs in them there, like the chassis. It's a very, very strongly built machine. 3-cylinder engine. We get a look at that in a second. Back tyres aren't too bad on it. Front tyres are, well, they've done their time. Strong steel bed with steel floor. Checker plate floor. We may add a bed liner to it. You can't get the inserts anymore, so I may just spray on a bed liner onto it when the weather starts to warm up a bit. Hitch for a trailer. You have two guys here, so you have actually hydraulic outputs. Some people I see in American stuff, they actually run chainsaws and stuff on these, and you can just hook it in here similar to a tractor. So I can go in here and just start it up. So underneath here you have a hydraulic ram, just like an ordinary tipping trailer, and there is the 3-cylinder Kubota engine. This is a 2006 machine, so it's approaching 20 years old. So it has done a bit of work, there's no doubt about it. There's 2,600 hours on it. Inside, there's loads of headroom because I'm 6'1", and you can see there's plenty of headroom. It doesn't feel cramped. I want to go doing something, I could easily put two of the girls in here beside me. There's seat belts and everything. At the moment when I go over in the quad, I can't really bring anyone with me on that, so I have to bring the Jeep or something if I'm going to do any work over there where the kids is helping me. So now they can sit in here along with me and enjoy my company. So the dash is quite simple on these. So you have a temperature gauge, you have a fuel gauge. There used to be a speedo here. Well, not used to be. Some of them come with a speedo. This one doesn't. That's the hours there, 2, 6, 4, 7. Couple of cup holders there on both sides. Horn here, it works. Here on this side we have 2- and 4-wheel drive. I've checked it, both are working. The gearbox in this, to make it quite simple, you have 4 selections here. All you have to do is push the throttle and away she'll go. When you take your foot off the throttle, it instantly stops. That takes a bit of getting used to, and I haven't got it used to it yet. So you must keep your foot on the throttle the whole time. Take it off completely and she will completely stop on the road. The brakes just come on. There it goes. So I take my handbrake off on the side here, put her in medium, And away we go. I have to watch here beside me because Hudson's deaf and he won't move, so you can run over him very easily. And we stop, foot and brake, reverse. You can see there when I take my foot off the throttle how quick it stops. So it just takes a bit of getting used to. We have a handbrake here just like a car handbrake. Bit awkward where it is because when you get in and out of the door you have a tendency to hit against it. A couple of other things that I like is these sliding windows. So you can open it either way. You can slide it from the back, a bit stiff, one-handed, or you can come along and slide it from the front. So you have opens on both doors to slide out of the way, and I think the back one's the one I'll do with the arm out the window. Not just the right look there. The front window does open as well. It only opens slightly, it sits like that there, so in the summer you can just open that, let a little breeze in here from the front if you needed it. But underneath the seat then we have, well, this guy here is supposed to be bolted to the seat to stop it from falling across like that, but you have a little storage area here, and under this here you've just access to the engine or to the gearbox itself. The guy that owned this had a dog in it, and the dog had ate into the seat, so the seat has all been redone. Feels great, all new fresh leather. Underneath here we have our bonnet, and that's just all our mechanisms from our pedals, and that's just the brake fluid. I might make something that slides in here to put tools and stuff just to have with you at all times, like vice grips, screwdrivers, bits and pieces like that. We box in here of some sort just to hold all that. So that's just the initial walk around of it. We are going to do a couple of upgrades to this, bring it a wee bit up to date. So let's get it maybe pulled into the back of the shed here, get out of this wind and start working on it. So there's a little place here to put spotlights on these. Here, washer and split washer behind. All right, so there is our two LED lights on there. Seem to be all right. I'm going to put grommets and drill these wires in through the cab now shortly, but before we do that I want to add another thing that I see on a lot of the new ones, which is a beacon. If you're moving cattle on the road or wherever, you'd be supposed to have a beacon on, so I got a little one for it. Let's stick it on here. Check between these two lights. Mark our two holes and put a little bend of it there. Now we drill a hole just down through the middle of that, and wire can go in here. Yeah. So now that's the back of her done. We're not going to wire anything at the moment. We're going to wire everything at the one time. What we're going to do is run this yoke out, drive it in forwards, and we'll tackle the front. I was hoping the brackets would line up. Oh, we're going to have to mark two holes here. At least I can use these as a kind of a reference to get my brackets in the right place so it's equal on both sides. So to run this wire, the good news is There's already 2 grommet holes right there, so I can take one of those out, put in a new grommet into it and run a wire in there. Good, that's that. That particular bar is curved, which is good because it'll send the light out wider, but on both sides of it you have these kind of like spotlights, so it just projects a lot more light out to either side. So this wire should go in now. So there's that one on there, nice simple little tidy light. We'll do the very same on this side. I'll not film that because it's exactly the same as what I was doing there. The next thing I want to fix real quickly is these tail lights. That one works, but this one here flashes on and off, and most of the time it doesn't work. It's an LED cluster, it's unusual because it opens, but it's still an LED cluster. And I have 2 lights that have here this last 3 years for another job that actually I didn't need them in the end for, and I think they'll fit perfect here. Alright, so it is still a sealed unit, it just allows you to put bolts in the back side of it. There we are. I can see now that she's only wired for tail and brake lights. There's no indicators, so I might add them on later on. I will actually add them on later on. It's not a big thing to do. It'd be nice to have them. Your tail lights. Alright. Your brake lights. You are. Just stripping back here, and instantly I found that there's a green wire, so we do have it wired for indicators. That's a good thing. So I'm using these connectors here, which is just basically like shrink wrap, and it's got a wee piece of solder in the middle. You just heat it up and it solders the joint together. It's better than the other ones the guys were using, because they're just a clamp and they can corrode. Nothing beats solder. Just back and front. Just take your time when you're heating it up. I don't use insulating tape. I use this, it's like a fabric style tape. It's for electrical wires. It'll last much longer and is UV protected as well, so it won't go all brittle. Alright, so there is our 2 lights done, and both of them working. Thankfully they fitted lovely and easy. And we have the indicators now hooked up, so when we do go to fix them inside, I'd say there's a wire and lumen all there. I said they're already pre-wired, it's just missing a switch. So hopefully that is the case. But that's that job done. Another thing now I want to do is tackle these mud guards. You can see here on this side we are missing a mud guard hanging down. This side we have this one hanging, but it's all perished and it's ripped. It's falling apart. I have looked online to see can I find them particular ones that can't, and the dealership Kubota as well couldn't get them. They were discontinued apparently. Right, I'll key fit this. Yep. Imagine that they're well seized. So just like I thought, these are all very, very badly rusted. I'd expect that. They are in a mudguard after all. So I think there's only one way of getting these out. This is the type of mudguard that I picked up here. I got 2 of these for less than €13, but £12.50 or something like that, delivered to the house. They're a bit heavier than what we took off. Just going to line this up and see what way we are. That's kind of the idea there. So these new mud guards came with these brackets, just like what's on the old ones, so I might as well use the new ones. And what I've been doing here, because it came originally flat like this one, I've been just kind of trying to bend it into shape so it sits nicely. So I'm going to put a little mark here where I can put a 90-degree bend just there, and there's another little bend to go the opposite way there. Same here, 90-degree, and a little mark there. I'm going to mark 3 holes here as well. I'm going to go in the vise here and try to bend these a bit better, and hopefully then it'll just sit nicely up there, and that'll help to hold the rubber in the right shape. Bends out slightly, not much. We got a 90-degree bend here. And rather than hammer it, I'm just going to use my hands because it's not hard stuff to bend, luckily enough. So here we do the same as there, and then here, back ever slightly. So I'll go out and see what that fits like. This is going to take a few trips to the vise, but I have to say we're not far off. So I'm just going to heat it here a wee bit just to make it a wee bit more pliable. Mark a few holes. Okay, that's that. Now we can pull our bracket around. Right, so we're out here and with the second one on, and I'm quite happy the way that looks. If we need to shorten them, we'll shorten them, but I don't think we need to at the minute because it comes out nicely there, and that'll stop a lot of splashing coming up. These ones here in the front, we're not going to touch those because they're actually not that bad. This one was kind of hanging down here. There is no bolt to hold them here, which is kind of a bit unusual. So I put a bolt on that. I might actually get a bit of steel plate, be a much better job, and put it at the back of that just to hold that better, but a bolt there kept that from hanging down. It was kind of hanging down this side, so I'm going to do the very same on the far side and just leave that as it is, because if it's not broken, no need to fix it. Alright, so just the same here. You see the way it's just ripped there? So if I can just put a nut just right there like that, the piece of the old plate that was left over that we took off from the rear ones, put that behind it. If you put a bolt and a washer just on it, chances is it'll just rip in no time. But if you put a plate on, it's just getting squeezed together, so it has less chance of it ripping. So there it is. Plate's holding it. So just tipping this up real fast to show you the idea of why these are so flexible is because when you're tipped up, you don't want this hitting again the wheel, because if you go to drive forward with a load on, you catch it in the tyre, and next thing it just rips the whole thing off. So you can see there we have plenty of clearance there. So it'll be interesting to see if they don't hold up. What we can do is we can take them off, we can put a more flexible one on, but for now I don't need to touch it. Just keep an eye and see what way they work. They might need a little bit cut off them. If they do, we can do that. That'll not be an issue, but I think it's a lot better than what was on it. Alright, so the next thing I want to do here is cover this battery. You see there's a lot of corrosion on the battery and some of the terminals already, and even when you lift this up and have a look, there's a lot of corrosion coming on the terminals, and it's not a bit of a wonder because all the water is going straight down top of the battery. So I had a quick look to see what comes on these from the factory. Is there a cover or what way it is? There's just a rubber cover that sits right over it. It's bolted onto these here and just sits right over it, just protecting against the elements. So I have a bit of that rubber left over, and I'm just going to take this thing off here. We're going to cut something to size and put it down over that battery just to protect it from the water coming straight down on top of it. So you can see the guy that had this must have had an issue with the bars being quite short, and that's why he put so many washers on top of it. Actually, look at it, if it works, it works. All these washers. you look there, that's where the nut was originally, a little bit of wear just there. So we've added that much to it. So that'll do with these washers. Now this time I might get away with just one washer. Put it exactly where we want it. Tap. And there's our 2 holes. There we go. It just sits there. These mud guards came with a steel plate, so we're going to reuse that steel plate. It's there, so we might as well use it. Alright, so that'll keep any water from hitting that battery directly from above. Right, so here's a couple of wires here going up to this. It's bare the whole way up. I don't like to see that. I never like to see bare wires. And I see the terminals here, they're completely exposed as well. And they're going to corrode if they're not already corroded. So the water's going straight down into them. So just going to tidy that up a wee bit. So now we're going to use some of this braided mesh cover here, which will protect it nicely. Right, so it's the following morning and I walked away late last night, run all the wires. I'll show you more about them when we get this yoke outside, because at the minute it's a horrible morning, sleet and hail falling and a bit of thunder as well. So yeah, we're safe in here. Here's our wires coming down here. So we need to put in a few switches for these. I was just looking at this here. This is just a blanked off area because there's no indicators on this. It just wasn't wired in. And it's the same here, that's just a hazard light. It's just a blank plug as well. It's kind of a void area because this light switch, well, if I turn on the lights now, you might be fit to see them. Turn them on the lights, you'll see them on the door. There they're on. Alright, so that's the light switch on, right? If I turn it off, it goes off, but watch. See it coming back on again? And that switch is still down. So when you turn it off, it goes off for about 3 seconds, it comes back on again. So there's obviously a wee bit of damage done to that. Because when you waddle it about a wee bit, it just, you can see it kind of, yeah, that switch is damaged. Rather than having a whole heap of stuff mixed switches everywhere, this is a lovely spot here to have all your switches in one place. And here I picked up this thing here of the internet, and that to me looks like it will fit just about in there and cover everything. Right, I'm just going to stick, these guys should just pop out, I think. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you can make it out, but them terminals are all green. They shouldn't be green. They're just badly corroded. So these are already looped, so all you have to do is fuse this end, earth this one, fuse this one, and then join on your positives straight to this here. Alright, so this is definitely a place where you just want to measure probably more than once. That is the way that sits there, and I think bring our gear sticks down, nothing's going to hit that. It's going to come down to 2 or 4-wheel drive. It's not going to interfere with anything. There we go, that just seals the end of it. So I want to put an inline fuse on this here. I'm going to use a 10 amp fuse in this, but it's always very important if you're ever wiring anything, especially if it's going directly to battery. This isn't, it's going to the ignition. It probably is already fused, but it's no harm, no matter what it is, to put an inline fuse on it. It'll save you a fire. So now you can see this is the ordinary dip lights. This is the front light bar, that's the rear cargo light, and that is the beacon. Alright, so here's a little test of these lights. So how we run our wires as well is we use this plastic trunking here. You can see underneath there, just adjust the camera. So the wires are all inside this plastic trunking, which goes out through the housing of the cab, through the hole, out to the lights outside. And then we swapped into this braided pipe, which carries all our wires here on one side. Come right down here, down our main post, and straight underneath there, underneath our dash. It's much better than that type of setup there, which is currently powering our wipers. And that's actually going straight to the battery. It looks like it was probably done like that when the cab was fitted. It is fused, but powering it straight from the battery still isn't the right way of doing it. I'll change that and put it into the ignition. But it's nice to have all the lights working. At least now that job can tick off the list. Now, one other thing I see here hanging about is this is a cigarette lighter. Now, it's still got power coming to it, but it's all corroded, as you can see there. And it's just hanging, dangling, so we can certainly do something with that. Just gonna go. Alright, so that's that lad in there now and all wired up. On the ignition, it should light up blue. There it is. Plug a USB into that there now and it'll be fit to charge a phone. Yeah, that's a good wee thing to have, and it's neat, and it's better than the yoke that was hanging there on the ground. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to have a look at this speedo. Now, I don't really care if it has a speedo or not, but I happen to be just messing around on the internet, just seeing could I come across a speedo for it, something nice and cheap. And the one that's originally for this, well, it'd make you cry, it's that expensive, so there wasn't a hope I was going to go down that lane. But I came across this by here, about a quarter of the price. And this guy here doesn't require any cables or nothing. All it requires is inert and power. And it's supposed to be GPS. And that's how it determines the speed. It's supposed to be accurate up to 1 kilometre. Now, this is originally here where the clock would go. We turn it on. I'm just having a quick look through the manual here. PO5 means positioning. So we had to leave it for a few minutes to find exactly, it was looking for where it was for the GPS. And now that it has found it, it has went back to the ordinary clock and it stays on it now. So I want to have this set on time, and I want to set the time. What's that? It's 11:59, it's a minute quick. You know, it's better a minute quick than a minute slow. So I turned it off for a while. I'm going to leave it here for 3 minutes, come back, turn it on and see what it remember the time. So it's been actually about 10 minutes now as I was putting the bracket on the back of this. So turn it back on again. It'll probably go to P5 again, yeah. Alright. So I'll go to... Oh yeah. 12:08, that's bang on. But remember the time. There's one other thing I want to do with this, and that is I want to put a set of mirrors on it. I knew even when I was taking it off the trailer, and I have it out a couple of days now driving around the roads on it, and you'd miss not having mirrors on a yoke, especially like this, because your visibility, although you can look behind you, it's nice to have a mirror on it. So I went looking online and to see could I get something cheap and cheerful, and I did. I got a couple of kind of universal mirrors to fit loads of different things. But if you look on these here, look on these cabs, some of them come with no cab on them, and all you have is this roll cage here, and a lot of people just have a roof on the top and everything else is just open. So I did find mirrors that clamp around these, but this one I can't use that because there's a cab on it. So I'm wondering, can we do something else? So these are the mirrors that I got. Cheap plastic, but they're actually alright for what they were. I think they were about €20 for two, maybe even less than that. And this is the bracket here that comes with it. That bracket fits over there onto that, and it all bolts together. And that bracket will fit around that bar, you see, and a whole lot then just clamps on. You have it on in a couple of minutes. But we can't do that. But I'm wondering if we get rid of this bracket altogether, if we could just mount it like that on the door. Just bolt that somewhere or other, make up a bracket that will hold that. And then this mirror will move from side to side, it'll move up and down because it has a little spring-loaded mechanism in it. And I think that would work absolutely brilliantly. So I just have to figure out what type of bracket to make. And I found this here, which it's aluminium, but I'm not sure what it was for. I think it could have been an extension to a PVC door or something. I looked at this now, the way it narrows in there, that's good for nothing. That's not going to work. But if I cut this lip off, which I did here on this side, here's one I made earlier, and that cut to the right size, and aluminium, so it's not going to rust, fits perfect over that. So that's there. If you look inside this door, you can see there's this. So we're trying to get it that we drill into this, because the outer skin of this door is not the heaviest thing in the world. It'd be nice if it just went straight through that channel bar there. That's kind of the frame. That'll give it an awful lot more strength. There it is. So if you get a look there, there's our hole just right in the center. You nearly think I measured it. So to fit this, we're going to use gutter bolts. As a reason for that, well, I'll tell you when I've figured it out for myself. Alright, so to fit the mirror, we're going to use stainless bolts. I always buy an assortment of stainless bolts every so often. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a groove here. If I used a hex bolt, it probably wouldn't sit flush in there. It'd probably push the mirror out slightly, but the fact that we're using those, this groove will allow for them, and this will fit tight into the bracket. Right, that's the pair of them in. There we go. I don't even think that's glass, is it? Oh, it is actually. And there is a mirrors on. It's as simple as that. We have a matching pair. I'm going to go inside. I haven't even adjusted them yet, but if I go inside here, I'll pull this back a little bit. Yeah, just about right. There, like that. Yeah, ideal. Alright, so I had a lovely bit of recording done from our house over to this place. Had a mic and all on. It was really well set up for once. But the one thing I forgot to do was hit the record button, so I was talking to myself. We'll leave it to the next day, and you'll see this yoke in several videos coming up, no doubt, because I do believe that there's going to be a great little workhorse for going round the fields, tidying things up and fencing, especially with that thing on the back of it, and having a closed cab, which is the main thing that I wanted. I know there's one man would have loved to have seen this, because he was always talking to me about putting a cab on the quad or something like that, just to get rid of the coldness on a quad. But yeah, he would have liked this. There's loads of things we could talk about on it, but we'll not. We'll leave it at that for the day. This video, I don't know how long it's going to be, and it's going to take me forever to edit it, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll take you for a spin on it next time and give you an idea of what we think of it after using it for a few days. Thanks for watching. See you next one.